Good morning, everyone. Can everyone hear me? Yeah? Okay, my mic's working now. So good morning, and welcome to the panel session on getting people into agriculture. Could diversity fix farming recruitment? So I'm Parthiban. I'm a second-year director. And it's actually quite interesting because in 2020, I was invited as a panelist to come and talk about diversity in agriculture, which, you know, it's a passion of mine talking. And so it's quite a pleasure being here and chairing a session very similar on a similar theme. And it's a massive, and it was also the reason why I helped work with the scholars this year and the breaking barriers. And it's something that hopefully we're going to sort of embed within Oxford farming going forward. I'm delighted to be joined by these 5 individuals, inspiring individuals, who are all part of our sector, but they're all bringing their unique ideas, perspectives and experiences, which I'm hoping they can share with you. The aim of this session is going to be a question time session, so I'm hoping that you can all come up with some questions, share them on the app, and put your hands up, and we can try and make it more of a conversational type of panel. Before I get into the questions, though, what I will do is I'll ask each one of our panellists just to give a quick introduction about themselves, and then we'll get straight into the questions. So, shall I start at the end with Nick?
Good morning, everyone. My name's Nick Evans. I think I'm here to represent the vertically advantaged section of society. Actually, when the HR department heard that I was coming to speak about diversity at the Oxford Farming Conference, they said, "Oh God, are you absolutely sure?" I stand here as what DEFRA would describe as a typical farmer. I'm a 60-year-old middle-aged white bloke, in common with the statistically average farmer in the UK. My career background, in fact, actually, I should also say that speaking here on diversity, when I started in my farming or agricultural career some 39 years ago, this conversation, even the thought of having a conversation like this, would have been unheard of. My first role leaving Aberystwyth University was with ICI on the grad scheme. I mean, some of you may not even remember ICI, but a fertilizer company. All of the grads, the 10 of us taken on that year, were white males. Hardly surprising, actually, given the fact that the interviewer was an ex-captain of the Queen's Hussars and spent most of the interview talking about rugby, and women's rugby at that point hadn't been invented. ICI Fertilisers, and then joined the Bank of Scotland, or Capital Bank, and then Bank of Scotland, ended up running the Bank of Scotland's agricultural business. I left in 2000 and set up an agricultural IT company called First for Farming, and then ultimately became ProAgrica. I sold that in 2015, did a 2-year earn-out after 2 years of working in big corporate at Relex, and, or Reed Elsevier, as some of you will know it as. And then in start of 2018, founded Oxbury Bank, the only UK agricultural bank dedicated to serving food and farming industry. So thank you very much.
Amie, would you like to?
Yeah, sure. Thank you. I'm not going to stand up like Nick because I'm wearing a dress and I'm worried I'm going to have a wardrobe malfunction, so I'll stay seated. I'm Amie Burke. I am Inclusivity Programme Manager for the IGD, which is a commercial insight business, but we have a charitable arm to that, and so that's where I operate. I get to do some great work on inclusion and diversity across the whole of the food and drink industry. And then before that, I've been there for 2 years. Before that, I've spent my whole career working directly with farmers, pre-farm gate. I had 2 stints with the AHDB, and I did some sustainability audits internationally for a couple of years, travelling around and seeing what it's all about. I'm from Birmingham, and I'm a female, and I'm a lesbian. So those are the kind of tick boxes of why not to get into farming. And traditionally, I've spent many a time going up a farm drive thinking, what's this farmer going to think? How do I pretend to be something I'm not so that I get the respect and the professionalism that I need to be approachable for? So based on that, I'd spent maybe 10 years covering and not really coming out to the industry and just being a different person. And then I eventually decided, well, how bad can it go? And actually, when I did come out to people, I had a very warm and welcoming reception. And so my role now really is to encourage as many people as possible to be their true self, because actually the farming industry is probably one of the most welcoming industries you can go into, and I think there's a misconception between that. And so yeah, we're going to talk a bit today about how to approach the situation, but also as allies in the room, how can you support people to be their true self so that they don't sit like I did, feeling oppressed and worried constantly. So that's me.
Thank you, Amie. Rory, do you want to go next, please?
Yeah, so I'm Rory Christie, and I guess I represent far-flung places and strange accents. But I farm in the very far southwest of Scotland. I have 1,100 milking cows and 200 sows. I'm 100 miles from Glasgow and 100 miles from Carlisle. More importantly, I'm 62 miles from McDonald's. When I started farming, we employed 55 people, all of which came from the village. I was third generation and still considered an incomer. Now I employ 15 people. Most of them are from far-flung places like Thailand, New Zealand, Hungary, even England. And I have three locals, my brother, me, and another. And we come from the village. So diversity has transformed our business and my life. And I'm an absolute advocate for diversity of people, of ideas, as a way to transform our industry, really.
Thank you, Rory. Ken, would you like this, please?
Yeah. So I'm Ken Sloan. I'm the Vice-Chancellor of Harper University. I've been Vice-Chancellor for 2 years. My career has taken me across the UK to China, to Australia, and I came back to Harper from Australia. And I think the real thread that's gone through my career and my life today has been tackling the barriers to opportunity in all of its forms and making sure that the routes through for individuals of all backgrounds, regardless of where they come from, are made clearer and they're open. I still remember the phone call I had when I was approached by the headhunters to consider throwing my name in for Harper I thought it was a joke at first. I've got a degree in English language and literature. I then went on to do business and business strategy, and actually in Australia I was doing some leading work on ag tech and food tech. But I always had an image of what the Vice-Chancellor of Harper or the Principal of Harper would look like. And so I remember talking to my partner about it, and he said, you should find 7 people you trust and ask them what they think. So that's what I did. I found 7 people I trust. 6 of them told me not to do it, not to put my head forward. And one of them said, go for it and do it. And when I asked the 6 why, and they said, because you are a member of the LGBT community and you have a non-white partner, how's that going to fly within the food and farming industry? And what they didn't know is all the way through my life, every time I'm told I shouldn't do something, I do it. So I ended up working for KPMG because a careers advisor told me I couldn't. I ended up in the university sector because someone told me I shouldn't. So it became inevitable that once people told me that I should not be the Vice-Chancellor of Harper I was determined to be it. So whether you like it or not, you've got me. So.
Thank you, Ken. Perfect. And Donna, please.
Well, my name is Donna Edmonds. I am a complete fraud and imposter. I have zero connection to farming historically. I'm from a South London council estate. I hadn't even been to the countryside till I was 21, never been around livestock. In fact, I only went to the countryside when I was sent to get all of the children out of my school because Ofsted were coming in. All of the psychotic children, get them all out, 36 of them, send them to this farm in Devon, and you're an NQT, you've been teaching for 6 weeks, you can take them. And so I was terrified of these new children, and I was even more petrified to be in the countryside because I don't know what you people are like. Like, you know, you're really, really different from my tribe and where I come from in South London. And it was just all so transformative for me. And it started a love affair with this charity that's lasted for 24 years. When the pandemic closed my charity and it looked like it would not open again, I quit my career as a head teacher and I came on board as the CEO to get it reopened and to grow it. And our charity operates 3 heritage farms, one in Gloucestershire, one in Devon and one in Pembrokeshire. We've existed for 50 years and we've worked with over 100,000 young people. And every year we bring 3,500 young people and around 700 teachers and youth workers to come and enjoy an immersive residential. And we do that because we believe in destroying barriers. A bit like Minette, I'm an absolute disruptor. And I really don't believe in going through doors, through handles. I smash through them. And that's how I lead my charity. I want to make sure that my charity exists as the solution to the problems that you've been talking about in the last 3 days. We are a solution because we do work with the next generation of farmers. And those children don't know it yet because they're from minority ethnic backgrounds. They are children that are in urban environments. They are young people that are disadvantaged and deprived. But when we get them on the farm, you can just see them light up. They're neurodiverse, they're complex, they're intriguing, they're quirky and they're curly. But when they're on the farm, they're completely at home and they're completely welcomed. So I genuinely believe for my charity that I'm sitting here today to talk to you because we are that solution. I can find you your next generation of workers. I just need the corporate backing to fund my charity to bring these young people through so that they see their future in agriculture. We've got an alumni network of horticulturalists, chefs. We've got kids that came from Streatham and are shepherdesses. We've proven that we can do it. And 50 years on, I'm sitting here on this stage just asking all of you to keep supporting my charity because I genuinely think that, we can open the doors to a whole diverse collection of young people who desperately want to take the baton on from all of you and run this sector.
Thank you, Donna. Right, so what I'll do now is I'm going to start with a question from the app, and then if you've got a question on the floor, if you could put your hand up, then someone with a mic will come to you, and then I'll go back onto the floor and we'll get some questions. So if I go to the most popular question at the moment, is there a place for either an industry-wide or sector-specific apprenticeship scheme to support businesses in recruiting, training and retaining talent from non-farming backgrounds as a way to bring in new blood and fresh insights into the industry? So I could start with you, Ken. Have you thoughts on that?
So I think one of the biggest barriers, and we've talked about it, I was at the Lantra session yesterday, is that the career routes through this particular sector are not clear to people who don't know the sector particularly well. In fact, increasingly, they're not clear to people who are in the sector. The other thing is we've got organisations of different shapes and size, and I think people are intimidated by what they see as the complexity of taking on apprentices, apprenticeship programmes and everything else. And we know that work-based approaches to learning are more likely to get people from different types of background, because if there are people who are concerned about debt through going to university or other matters, if they can get straight into the workplace, if they're getting family pressure to go into the workplace. So I think there are some really simple solutions, which is we need to aggregate. We need to, so I'm really supportive of what Lantra are talking about with regard to trying to make it easy for employers to take on apprentices by taking some of the complexity away. I'm really excited by what TIA are doing in terms of the Institute. I genuinely hope that does start to show people how to get from A to B in the industry. But I think I looked at the industry from outside. It's just impossible to know what this industry is and what it's for and where it goes to. And if we're serious about if we're serious about diversity and we're serious about the insights that come from diversity, because it's not just what your employee workforce looks like, it's actually the ideas and the innovations and the creativity and actually the tensions that come from that. We've got to simplify it. We need the government to simplify it. We need aggregators in the market to be able to simplify it, and we need to increase the numbers that are coming through.
Thank you very much, Ken. Rory, as a farmer and a business owner, would you think something like that would be helpful for you?
I think there's room for all these good ideas, but the one thing that we must recognise is that farming's extremely lean. There are not the management structures or people in place to look after an apprentice. We're also burdened with health and safety. We are the most dangerous industry. So I think farmers find it extremely difficult to take apprentices, and we keep coming up with these ideas. Apprentice is a word that's used a lot, and it just doesn't happen. No. And that's why. One, it's costly. Two, there aren't the people to shepherd young, inexperienced people in a dangerous world. So we need to overcome that. We need new ideas to overcome that. So I'm all for it, but let's get something in place that can actually make it happen.
Can it be contentious?
Yeah.
Of course, that's what I'm here for. I disagree. So I worked on apprenticeships when I was at the AHDB, and there's funding in place for apprenticeships. They're cheaper than they ever have been, and I think there's a lot of support in getting them around. I also think you said you haven't got time to shepherd somebody about, but actually you haven't got time to not have the labour. And if you put the time into somebody, you can model them into the next generation. So I think actually being a bit contentious is, you say you can't afford to do it time-wise, you can't afford not to do it. And I think there's other options as well, and there's some work, I've spotted Adam over there, the work that Farmers Weekly are doing about careers in STEM. You've got to start the conversation really early. So there's no point waiting for somebody to get to 16, 17, and then say, oh, by the way, have you thought about a career in farming? Start it at the age of 6 and 7 where they're most easily influenced, and say, that science stuff you like doing, you can do that with crops and you can help feed the world. So we've got to start the conversation earlier so that people are thinking about their career a bit more in. Definitely. Sorry to be contentious.
You haven't been particularly.
You're used to me.
Yeah. And Nick, from an allied part of agriculture.
Yes, so we regard ourselves as an agricultural business, albeit we're a bank. So just because we are not dressed up in Wellington boots all day and overalls doesn't mean we don't work in agriculture. And the question that was set at the outset was about diversity and recruitment in agriculture. And recruitment full stop, I've got friends who operate businesses outside of ag, and recruitment full stop is difficult at the moment. So diversity, I'm not sure necessarily fixes the problem, but we're a business in agriculture. The opportunities within our business are wide-ranging. It's a bit like a career in the army. You don't have to be on the front line. You can be an engineer, telecoms, in IT, and so on. The same in the bank. So there are some frontline people who necessarily will have agricultural backgrounds, will be from farming backgrounds, but there are IT people, there are operations people, there are HR, finance, et cetera, et cetera. So there are multiple careers in the industry. But getting hold of people, getting hold of good people, for a banking career, which on the face of it, when you ask students generally, in fact, I went to my son's school and did a presentation about careers in Oxbury. And because it had Oxbury Bank at the end, we got loads of people. And then we started talking about agriculture, and I could see people's faces kind of, they're farming. Well, farming necessarily isn't perceived as a sexy sector. Banking might be seen as a bit of a sexy sector. So coming back to that, the point made about schools and getting hold of people early to say, agriculture as an industry has multiple streams in it. And as an industry, I think that's what we need to do, to go into schools, and come back a little bit to the point you make, go into schools and tell people, actually, agriculture isn't just about Wellington boots and overalls and the perception of getting dirty. It's a whole wide thing, and actually it's probably the most exciting sector to be in at the moment, given all the challenges and opportunities that people have talked about in the conference so far.
Thank you, Nick. And actually, I'm going to go to Donna next. And carrying on from that theme, we've had a question about how do we do more in schools to show young people from different backgrounds diverse opportunities that agriculture can provide.
I agree absolutely with what Nick is saying. It's not only is there not careers guidance around agriculture, there's just not careers guidance anymore. Having worked in education for 22 years, it's one of the things that's just completely gone. And if you were to be, in an inner city school, there's no way anyone's ever going to talk to you about food industry, farming or agriculture. They're absolutely dirty words. You would never ever steer anybody to any of those professions. At the moment, it's always bound up with media kind of conversations around how bad farming is, farming linked to climate change, farming linked to poor returns on and profits, and everything in terms of the narrative has been saturated in negativity. And so for us as a charity, we definitely do what Amie says, is we're getting these young people in from the age of 8 all the way through to 19. They come when they're tiny, they come when they're in year 4, and we start to show them what it looks like to farm. So we're not playing at this at Farms for City Children either. We're not a petting zoo, we're not a day visit farm, we're a proper farm, and we work with commercial partner farmers. And so the young people come and they do 12 to 13 hours each day of graft across their week. They do all the jobs that the farmers do, and they see that farming isn't just you have a little sack on your shoulder, you put a bit of feed out, and then you go back inside for a lovely bacon sandwich. That's not what it looks like, and that's what you see if you see farming on the telly. It's not Emmerdale Farm, is it? It's completely different. So on our farms, they'll see unbelievable assortments of different activities and types of work going on. If they come to the Gloucestershire farm, they'll see a dairy, but they'll see robotic milking. Now, for a child that's a great computer programmer, you could talk to that child about the fact that they might not fit in school at the moment, but they loved being outside. They absolutely loved working with those animals. They loved being in the countryside. They could take this other passion of being a computer programmer. And did you know that you could work in robotics? Agriculture's all about robotics. It's all about computer programming now. There's so much diversity to this sector. It is so rich. It is so full of opportunities at the moment. But unless we're in schools talking to young people and talking to teachers, no one's going to know. So our charity obviously brings people to the farms, but we also then work in schools afterwards on a follow-up program. We write curriculum resources, we go into schools and we deliver assemblies, we do online lessons as well, all to close that gap, to demystify what agriculture actually looks like, to make it really, really attractive as a future profession.
Thank you, Donna. I'll go to the floor now and get some questions. So I'll start with number 3, please.
Hello, I'm Penny Connaughton from Farm Able. I started farming from a complete towny background, and I blame James Herriot and All Creatures Great and Small. It was initiation by fire. We literally bought a 12-acre holding, lock, stock and barrel, with 20 jerseys, 2 decrepit old T20s, moved in at lunchtime, did our first milking at 4:30 and had our first cough at 7:30 and had the next one the next morning. And what I want to do is encourage other people to just outside of a farming background to realise just how wonderful farming can be and what it gives you. And I went on to do some teaching at Duchy College in Cornwall, but now I'm running a community interest company which actually takes young service leavers, military service leavers, and places them with real farmers, not in a class situation, but on a real farm with real people, with real situations happening. And I want to know what we can do to encourage that a lot more, because what I want to do now, because I've had quite a few successes recently with young farmers, young Royal Marines, going into farming, one on an estate, one on a dairy farm, who sent me a picture of his first calving, which was very emotional, and another one that's working on an arable farm, and there's an untapped opportunity there. There's 14,000 leavers every year, service leavers from the armed forces. Most of what don't know what on earth to do when they leave. So, the more I want to promote that and bring more people in, because the ones that have done it absolutely love it. I had a phone call on Christmas morning from this particular Royal Marine to say thank you for my support. So, yeah, do more. Thank you.
Thank you very much for that. So, are there any good examples of how you've worked? So, Nick, are there any examples of how you've brought people in and it's been a success in your business?
So I said at the start about the fact that my demographic would be matching the top of the bell curve for DEFRA's statistics about the average age of farmers, and that clearly is not sustainable. So we believe, and in line with some of the things that Penny just mentioned, about bringing the next not just the next generation, a new generation of farmers into the industry. So we launched a product actually back in September 2022, which was called Oxbury New Gen, which is for new entrants to agriculture from outside of the industry. So they would need to have an agricultural background, so some kind of training, some kind of understanding. They might have worked on a farm, but we would be prepared to, following a reasonably intensive audit process, credit process, to provide them with 100% funding and consultancy backing for the first 3 years of their venture into farming. And that has been tremendously well received. We've had over 250 applicants to that scheme, and we've actually advanced loans of just over 30, which comes to the main problem when we talk about agriculture and getting into agriculture from a farming perspective, is there are two main barriers. Number one, of course, is capital, which we can solve and we can provide. The second one is the availability of land, the availability of opportunities. I have an idea that that will start to change over time. With that demographic, there are many farmers out there who are 70 and don't want to take risks and don't want the lifestyle, but would like someone to come in and farm the land with them as owners. And we would be delighted to help those people get into farming with the necessary funding and necessary backing. But the current demographic of 60-year-old white blokes is not sustainable, and new entrants from outside the industry, not just farmers' sons and daughters, in fact, aiming not to be farmers' sons and daughters, is what we're trying to do. That doesn't mean we'd take Chardonnay the hairdresser, who fancies a career in pig farming. That probably is not going to work, but somebody who has an understanding of agriculture and farming would be delighted to apply.
Brilliant, thank you, Nick. Ken?
Yeah, I was going to say, I've got Kit Franklin in my eye line. I keep looking down, and he's there, and people will know Kit from the Hands-Free Hectare and the Hands-Free Farm. And similar to what Donna was saying before, that actually once you find the community and then you connect them to something, it's mind-blowing. And so if I think when we bring kids from any background into the campus and show them autonomous work, or we just show them the application of technology and how that works, they're just completely mind-blown about it. They don't actually know that that's what farming's about and other things. The thing that I became conscious of, though, when I started at the university was that the university is waiting for people to, so we're out there, we're in the communities, we're talking to them, but what we're waiting for is for them to make a decision to come. And what became obvious is that actually we have a pretty diverse population in Telford nearby, so we've got very strong minority ethnic communities in and around that particular place. So this year, in October this year, we will launch Harper Adams in Telford itself. So we're actually going to be located in the urban bit of Telford, and we're taking data science, engineering, business management, robotics, and mechatronics and others in there. And once we get students in through that particular route, then we will connect them properly to the campus, the future farm, and other things. And I think the key thing for all of us is to get our doors as open, as wide as we possibly can, and to excite people about the possibilities. You can't take away the hard graft that there is within the jobs that people do. It doesn't matter which bit of the food production or animal health and well-being that we're in. But actually, the type of people that end up coming forward are not afraid of hard work. They just don't know what the nature of the jobs is. So I think if we're going to broaden that demographic, exactly what you said before, we've got to get to young people when their minds are open. We've got to blow their brains with exactly what these industries have available to them. And if I think back when I was at Warwick, we had really strong relationships with Jaguar Land Rover in the car industry. And they've been doing that for 20-odd years. So now, if you look in the car industry, if you come from any part of the country, you know how to get from an apprenticeship to a degree apprenticeship to a master's degree all the way through, or anything in between. We've got to do that in this sector as well. We've got to just show people that this is one of the most advanced sectors that we've got in our country, but it's also one of the most exciting sectors we've got in the country. And I think everyone on this particular panel will be an ally to any of you. If you've got access to communities, if you've got funding to support people who are going into education, if you've got opportunities for employment experience or other things, then just tell us. We will create the channels to get the people to it. But but we're going to have to go and find these people. They're not just going to come and find us.
Thank you, Ken. And Rory?
I think we will get the people to come to us. And one of the things I've found is keeping them. is an issue. You have to, once you've got them, the problem is keeping them. I employed a young woman 3 years ago, and she's now my farm manager. She had no farming background at all. She came from the Navy. And there are a lot of similarities between the forces and what we do in agriculture. It was hard work, working with young people. And she's been extremely successful. She's extremely determined. She jumped in at the deep end, but one thing for sure, she did not know how deep it was, and neither did I. But what we have learned together is that place is hugely important. So we bring all these new people to farming, and we're often in rural places. I'm an extremely rural place. So what is there to make them have a life? Because they need to do more than work for you. They need to live with you. They need to live there and live in the place that your business is. And so they've got to have something to do after work when the door closes. They've got to be able to meet people, to make a life. And actually, I think some of our challenge is creating place for people to come and be. Internet connection makes a difference. Most of us have it. But what clubs are there? What hobbies can they do? Where will they meet their wife or their partner? That's a big challenge, because we make them work hard. And it's often dark when they go home. How do they meet their future partner in that scenario? So our challenge is often about place. Well, let's get them, that's easy.
Can I build on your retention thing? Because you're completely right. We keep talking about diversity in the context of we need to basically look at our workforce and see all the different colours of the rainbow, literally. But actually, you can bring the people in, you can recruit from a diverse location and bring those things in. But diversity is just a fact, it's just a statistic. And actually what you need is the inclusion. So for people to stay within your business, you need to make them feel psychologically safe, whether they want to come and tell you about their faith, their religion, whether they want to tell you about what they do on the weekend. They need to come to work and be their true self and not, like I described, worry that, oh my God, I'm going to slip up and tell everybody I'm a lesbian. They want to come to work because when they feel psychologically safe, they feel that you're really looking after them. They've got this place to live, they've got this great career prospect in front of them. When they are at their best, they're more productive. And there's so much data out there. McKinsey & Co. show that if your business is truly inclusive, and we'll all give you some tips about how to be inclusive, but if you're truly inclusive and everybody can just be themselves and they've got the resources, they're 60% more productive. So we've talked yesterday all about how to be productive in diversifying your business, but actually diversify your people and you'll be productive in that way. But it is about inclusion. I know we're going to use lots of terminology that might be a bit confusing, but inclusion is just, I've just spotted Tom actually. Tom, you did a really good slide yesterday about how you look after your people, and that's it. Yeah. Just look after everybody, be kind, and you'll get the people to come into you. Once you're an inclusive business, you don't even need to go and attract them, they come to you.
That's it. Thank you. That's perfect. It's like a leaky basket, isn't it? There's no point putting water in it if you don't cover the holes and keep people there. So thank you very much, Amie. I'll go to questions again. Number 6, please.
Hi, Adam Bedford from Fair Science. It's a topic that hasn't really come up for the past couple of days. To what extent is social class and socio-economic background a barrier to agriculture in the wider sense? I'll just quickly say, I remember going to college and my parents being asked how big our farm was, and there wasn't a farm, and I died inside. So it's not about me, I'm just saying it's an issue, and we haven't discussed it. What do the panel think?
Donna, I think, you do a lot of children.
Yeah, I mean, I think as the outsider looking in on this, I think social class is massive in terms of that sort of representation of could I have a future in this, because even when someone comes to find out about what farming looks like, it's nearly always farming families, inherited farms being passed through. So it's like, so how do I get mine in there? Where do I go to get that piece of land? It's a bit like Nick was saying, that piece around how do you even get a start, because you can't even find a property that you could take over and land, or how to be a tenant. So I think there is an enormous piece around social class. I know with the young people that we work with, I said to you at the start, the vast majority of them are navigating their childhood in abject poverty. One of the schools that has come to us this year has been on the news recently because 80% of the children in their cohort are homeless. That is not non-typical in London at the moment, that bed insecurity is as prominent as food insecurity. So these young people they're already spinning plates around so many levels of disadvantage, so many barriers, so many doors closed. And then when they look out into the sector, they think, well, where's me? Like, where am I? Like, who looks like me? Who sounds like me if you come from South London? You know, like, and I've worked a lot on my accent. You can tell I'm terrible. But I mean, you know, even I was saying to a person earlier on, like even coming here to Oxford, the way I was treated here at Oxford when I came for my Oxford interview, where they were clearly only interested in me as a working class quota and the fact that I was homeless at the time that I came here, and I came from the care system, they absolutely were just like, oh, tick, tick, tick. And I had to sit at a dinner where someone had to buy me a dress to even be able to come here, and someone had to lend me the money for the National Express to come here. And then I sat with a group of people around that dinner table who all talked about what school they went to, and I wasn't that kid at all. So I hear exactly what you're saying. It's all about the layers of barriers. So what we need to do is really call out all of those barriers. And a bit like Minette was saying earlier, like, let's smash through that wall, smash through that wall, go through that door. Wherever these barriers are, let's call them out. Let's find ways of removing it. Let's lean into things like Oxbury are doing, where they're really looking for people that need that start in life and then empowering them to have that start. But I do think social class it's still that mindset of, I could never have that. It's that imposter syndrome thing, isn't it? Where you think, I could never get that. That doesn't belong to me. I'm not welcome here. And that's what inclusion is. Yeah. So diversity is all of us sitting in this room recognizing that we are different. And inclusion is the bit when you walk out of this room in a minute and you go and do something about it. That's the accepting that we're different, but actually now we're going to work out ways so we're all welcome, we're all included, and social class needs to be part of that.
Thank you very much, Donna. Ken, do you want to?
If I look at the aggregate statistics in Harper, I can look back and say that our representation in the university is roughly on par with what you'd expect to see in terms of social class, except it's not in agriculture. So it's veterinary science and it's business and other courses that have contributed to that. The thing that really hit me when I came to have a look at Harper, and you know, so this is a university where if you go through it, 99.2% of the graduates are in a job immediately after graduation. This is an absolute pathway to a really good career. Yet on our agriculture course for the last 4 years, not one non-white student on that course, and then significantly underrepresented in terms of social class. So as a university, we're looking significantly better, but we have got to, and this is why I'm saying we've got to decode what these jobs are, and we've got to make it clearer to people, because once we get them, we keep them. And then when we keep them, they go into employment and they go on and have amazing careers. And part of the issue, and you know, just being equally provocative, one of the things I've heard several times over the last couple of days is that question of, so it's hard to get access to land. If we tell people, even if we use that language at the beginning when we're talking to primary kids and other people, you're just encouraging them not to look at it at all. There are thousands of other ways to get into agriculture than having access to land, and we've got to be clear about it. And if I think about my own background, so you know, I was born in a council estate in, as I've said before, when council estate, state schools, single parent, all those tick things. And I'll look at people and I'll just say, but look what I'm doing. I'm the Vice-Chancellor of the UK's leading agricultural specialist institution. If I can do it, they can do it. What we've got to do is exactly by supporting charities like Donna's and you know, finding those kids and pulling them through and inspiring them. But if we get them, they're going to have the best careers. I see so many people who go into other degrees and other types of experience, and they end up with non-careers on the other side of it. If they come through this route, if they come through, you know, us and other institutions that offer these type of degrees, they're going to have amazing careers. That's how we're going to tackle this, the social class issue.
Thank you, Ken. Rory?
Yeah, I think you know, talking about land ownership is almost killing it for us. You know, we need so much more than that. And I think it's not only people of colour. If you look at the people that aren't applying, the urban dwellers, you're not getting urban people. Why would they come? There's nothing there for them to come to. So we need to map out the supply chain of jobs. We maybe need to stop talking about it as agriculture, because it's food, it's manufacturing, they are just jobs like in any other industry, and we pigeonhole it as agriculture. It's much more than that. It is the entire rural community. We need people from all over to move to our rural communities to reinvigorate them. And you know, if you're a hairdresser in a rural village, are you an agricultural hairdresser? But there needs to be enough people to live there to make them open that hairdresser, or to open that restaurant, or to, you know, to have these other jobs. We're all so interdependent. Yeah. So we need to map out the interdependence of agriculture. And at every interdependent point, there's a job, a rural job. So it's not just farming. Stop killing it by calling it agriculture. Stop killing it by saying the only way in is to own land.
Thank you, thank you. I'll get some more questions off the floor. We'll go to number 1 over there.
Thank you. Julia Casford, Harper Adams University. So I've heard a lot about STEM recently in various meetings and workshops and things I've been to, also here at this conference. How do we encourage children into STEM subjects? How do we change the perception of the kind of agriculture, farming career pathways? So my question to you is, there's amazing work going on by various industries, various organisations, charities, businesses, independently, but what role does the government have to play in this?
We'd like to start that one off. No? Ken.
What can I say? And hello, Julia. I think the government has got a role to incentivise organisations to come together. I mean, you know, we were talking earlier about the fact that, you know, we work together, and we work with the Worshipful Company of Butchers, and all of us have got the Princess Royal as either a patron or a chancellor or something else. Collaboration is absolutely the key to solving these issues. Government can incentivise and catalyse, but you cannot rely on it for the long term. There are too many, and particularly when it comes to issues around access to young people. Many years ago, I was part of the National Academy for Gifted and Talented Youth that was there for Warwick, at the University of Warwick. With government support, we created a population of 90,000 kids from lots of different backgrounds, and promised them that we would actually have a seamless set of opportunities for them all the way through to the age of 18, and then the government changed its mind and shut it down, and those 90,000 kids were just pushed back into the community. So I think the key for me is use government for what it should be, which is a catalyst and an incentive and a broken enabler, but actually it's going to be the partnerships in this room that make the biggest difference. And you know, I genuinely do think, and it's been said by several people, it's really important that we don't leave this event and say that we have done diversity and inclusion and we thought about it. I actually think that what people should be doing every time they come back to this event is getting an annual look at what's happened in terms of diversity and inclusion and asking whether anything changed. And if it didn't, it won't be because someone else didn't do it. It will be because we didn't do it. But the government will catalyse, but they won't deliver it.
In that case, sorry, Rory, in that case, if we recognise that the government are going to focus on their areas that they focus on, what can we do physically ourselves? So back to your point, going out this room today, what is the one action that you can do? There are some fantastic stories out there of genuine businesses that take on inclusion and diversity through their business and see great results. So let's share stories and let's share best practice, because I think a collaborative approach is the only way forward. 4 years ago, myself and Thebe was on the Emerging Leaders programme, sat in this room, we looked around, the pair of us went, don't think I fit here. And now 4 years later, diversity is at the heart of the conference. If we can achieve that in 4 years, what can we do over the next 4 years? Do we come back here in 4 years and we truly have inclusion? It's just interwoven in the veins of what the conference is about. So everybody needs to think about one thing to take away, and whether it's you contact one of us and we can talk a bit more in depth. Just realised we've got 30 seconds left, sorry. But yeah, one action.
Perfect. Thank you, Amie. Unfortunately, I won't take any more questions now because we're running out of time. But I think what's come out of this is there's a lot of different things about diversity. Diversity isn't just a single issue subject. There's a lot of things involved in diversity, and diversity comes with inclusion. So we can't do one without the other, and we need to consider inclusion. And it's really interesting to see, you know, we all agree, even though we're all coming at different angles at this, that, you know, it's not just words, it's actions, it's about collaboration, it's about finding those resources and those people and that time to make positive change. So, and like you said, we've seen positive change on this stage and in the things that we're doing, and hopefully we can make that a sector-wide thing and copy each other's examples, not reinventing the wheel. If there's some good examples out there, use it for your own advantages. So I want to thank the panel for sharing their insights and their experiences. And it's always a learning curve for everyone and for me. And so, yeah, I want to give a round of applause to our panel members.